The left is using apocalyptic language to describe what will happen to America if Donald Trump wins in 2024. Michael Snyder reports, "We haven't ever seen anything like this before. As we approach the 2024 presidential election, I'm extremely alarmed by the apocalyptic language that's been employed by many on the left. They're making all sorts of outrageous claims about how Donald Trump is a fascist that will become dictator for life if he wins in 2024. That sort of incendiary language is potentially setting the stage for unprecedented civil unrest. If Trump actually wins in November 2024, I believe that will be the beginning of a colossal national temper tantrum by those on the left. Instead of inflaming tensions, those in positions of power and influence should be trying to diffuse them. Our forefathers established a system in which our national leaders are supposed to be elected freely, fairly, and peacefully, and this is the way that it was always supposed to be. But now there are many that are insisting that only one outcome in November 2024 is acceptable." In a recent editorial for the Washington Post, Robert Kagan boldly declared that there is now, quote, "a clear path to dictatorship in the United States," end quote. "Let's stop the wishful thinking and face the stark reality. There's a clear path to dictatorship in the United States, and it's getting shorter every day. In 13 weeks, Donald Trump will have locked up the Republican nomination. In the Real Clear Politics poll average for the period from November 9 to 20th, Trump leads his nearest competitor by 47 points and leads the rest of the field combined by 27 points. The idea that he's unelectable in the election is nonsense. He is tied or ahead of President Biden in all the latest polls, stripping other Republican challengers of their own stated reasons for existence. In the fact that many Americans might prefer other candidates, much ballyhooed by such political sages as Karl Rove, will soon become irrelevant when millions of Republican voters turn out to choose a person whom no one allegedly wants. Kagan is married to Victoria Nuland, so he would know something about overthrowing a democratically elected leader and establishing a dictatorship. But to suggest that such a thing might happen in the United States is extremely irresponsible. If Donald Trump wins in 2024, he would not be a dictator. His victory would represent the will of the American people, and it should be respected. And if the American people willingly choose Joe Biden in 2024, that should be respected too. Nobody's going to stay in office longer than they are legally permitted to do so, and anyone that suggests otherwise is engaged in extremely inflammatory speculation. Sadly, we're likely to see much extremely inflammatory speculation in the days ahead. The Atlantic is publishing an entire issue dedicated to discussing what will happen, quote, if Trump wins, end quote, and it is absolutely loaded with wild conjecture. One of the articles in that issue actually compares Trump to Adolf Hitler, and it warns that his ideas, quote, contravene basic principles of the Constitution or other bedrock basis of American government, end quote. It said, for weeks, Trump has been ramping up his rhetoric, Nichols wrote. Early last month, he echoed the vile and obsessively germophobic language of Adolf Hitler by describing immigrants as disease-ridden terrorists and psychiatric patients who are poisoning the blood of our country. In a separate speech, Nicholas wrote, meddled religious and political rhetoric to aim not at foreign nations or immigrants, but at his fellow citizens. This is when he crossed one of the last remaining lines that separated his usual authoritarian bluster from recognizable fascism. Trump's rhetoric has numbered us in its hyperbole and frequency, and as David A. Graham, one of our magazine's chroniclers of the Trump era, wrote recently, the former president continues to produce substantive ideas, which is not to say they are wise or prudent, but they are certainly more than gibberish. In fact, much of what Trump is discussing is anti-American, not merely in the sense of being antithetical to some imagined national set of mores, but in that his ideas contravene basic principles of the Constitution or other bedrock basis of American government, end quote. Many on the left that are reading this pablum are buying into the hook and line and sinker, and even many that are supposed to be in the middle are using this sort of explosive language. For example, Liz Cheney is claiming that if Donald Trump wins in 2024, it may mean the last election that you ever get to vote in, she said. She said, I think that's a real problem, and I think that the challenge is to make sure that those people understand and recognize that a Trump vote is not acceptable, she said. She said, I hope that there are options and alternatives that reflect the important challenges that we're facing and that reflect leadership to meet those challenges. But that choice can never be Donald Trump, because a vote for Donald Trump may mean the last election that you ever get to vote in. And again, I don't say that lightly, and I think it's heartbreaking that that's where we are, and people have to recognize that a vote for Donald Trump is a vote against the Constitution, she said. So let me ask you a question. If a fascist really did take power in the United States and attempted to set up a dictatorship, how would the American people respond? Well, right now there are millions upon millions of people on the left that will feel justified in responding the exact same way if Donald Trump wins in 2024. And this is why we should all be deeply concerned about the extreme rhetoric that is being thrown around. During an interview with Bill Maher, James Carville actually claimed that House Speaker Mike Johnson is a bigger threat than Al-Qaeda. Democrat strategist James Carville went on an unhinged rant on Bill Maher's show this weekend and claimed that Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson was a bigger threat than the terrorist group Al-Qaeda. Bill Maher attacked Mike Johnson as a Christian nationalist, saying Mike Johnson and what he believes is one of the greatest threats we have today to the United States. This is what Carville told Maher on Friday evening. He said, I promise you, I know these people. And what did we do to Al-Qaeda terrorists? During the Bush administration, we sent them to Guantanamo Bay and eventually waterboarded them. Is that what Carville would do to his political opponents? This is frightening. These people are stone cold crazy, and they have countless followers that are internalizing their beliefs. Earlier today, I came across a USA Today article about preppers that are anticipating that the 2024 election will cause society to collapse. According to one prepper expert, many on the left really are afraid that Donald Trump is going to declare himself dictator of the United States. On the left, you have people afraid Trump's going to declare himself dictator of the United States, and people on the left are going to end up as targets in some sort of authoritarian system, said prepping expert and author Brad Garrett. And once again, that's not going to happen, but this is what these people actually believe. Another prepper expert ominously warned that many of the left believe that Trump may bring a new world order. Quote, that's the impetus for all the preppers I've ever dealt with. They saw something and felt the government could not or would not help, said Chad Huddleston of Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville, a professor and an anthropologist who has studied the prepping community extensively. Huddleston said it's important to distinguish between the large numbers of people who consider being prepared for emergencies their civic and family responsibility, and those who are sometimes eagerly awaiting societal collapse. But he said the number of people deliberately preparing for a crisis tied to a Trump-Biden election is growing. On one side, people think Trump may bring your new world order and they will come and get us, so we need to be ready, he said. Seriously? There's so much hysteria out there right now, and the election is nearly a year away. So what will things be like when we get into the very close November 2024? I believe that 2024 will be the most chaotic election season we have ever seen, and it will be happening during a year when great chaos will be erupting all over the globe. So buckle up and hold on tight, because things are about to get really crazy out there. This is by Michael Snyder. He says about the author, my name is Michael, and my brand new book entitled Chaos is now available in paperback and for Kindle on Amazon. In addition to my new book, I've written 7 other books that are available on Amazon, including 7-Year Apocalypse, Lost Prophecies of the Future of America, The Beginning of the End, and Living a Life That Really Matters, Commissions Earned. When you purchase any of these books, you help to support the work that I'm doing. And one way that you can really help is by sending copies as gifts to family and friends. Time is short and I need help getting these warnings into the hands of as many people as possible. I have also started a brand new Substack newsletter, and I encourage you to subscribe so that you won't miss any of my articles. I have published thousands of articles on the Economic Collapse blog, End of the American Dream, and the most important news, and the articles that I publish on those sites are republished on dozens of other prominent websites all over the globe. I always freely and happily allow others to republish my articles on their own websites, but I also ask that they include this about the author section with each article. The material contained in this article is for general information purposes only, and readers should consult licensed professionals before making any legal, business, financial, or health decisions. I encourage you to follow me on social media, Facebook and Twitter, and any way that you can share these articles with others, definitely great help. These are such troubled times and people need hope. John 3:16 tells us about the hope that God has given us through Jesus Christ. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. If you have not already done so, I strongly urge you to invite Jesus Christ to be your Lord and Savior today. This is by Michael Snyder on End of the American Dream. Please leave your comments and thank you for your support. Support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.